He didn't know, and now he says he can't do anything about it. A Toronto landlord says a tenant is renting out his rooms of his house on Airbnb without permission, and he's powerless to stop it. He reached out after our story yesterday about multiple condo owners in the same position. Lauren Pelly's live at City Hall tonight. And Lauren, the city has new bylaws on short-term rentals, but this man says they don't go far enough.
That's right, and the city was working on these new regulations for quite some time for home sharing websites like Airbnb. They're coming out this summer, and what they mean is you will need to get a permit if you want to run one of these home sharing operations. You'll also only be able to do it at your primary residence, which means you'll have to live at the place that you're renting out. Now, this landlord I spoke to, though, he said that these regulations will not actually protect people like him.
I went out there and confronted him, had a meeting about it, and he said, you got me.
That's what Robert Johnston's tenant said when he was caught home sharing part of his Etobicoke rental on Airbnb. Johnston says he can't evict him because his tenant is only renting out rooms, not the whole house.
And he's actually staying at the house. So the only thing you can get them on is unauthorized subletting of your house. And as long as he doesn't leave the property and leave it entirely to someone else and them paying the money, he's not subletting the house.
Toronto bylaws coming later this year will require short-term renters to get a permit, but Johnston says that won't fix his problem.
The tenant can apply for this permit from the city without any authorization from the property owner.
City Council voted on regulations that allow both property owners and tenants to participate in home sharing as long as they're using their primary residence. But what Johnston and others are asking is why this doesn't force tenants to ask a landlord's permission before they get a permit.
They're not going to do enough to protect the neighborhoods in Toronto, and definitely the landlords, the ones that are renting their houses out, they have to make sure that their tenants are not turning around and renting out as Airbnb. If a tenant was renting out a Airbnb, he should get the consent of the landlord.
I think we do have a balanced approach.
But the city says these bylaws aren't about issues between tenants and their landlords.
They're not required to give permission, but they are required, if there is an issue, to go to the landlord-tenant board. It is a contract between the landlord and the tenant, and that's really the appropriate place.
So, Lauren, if a landlord has concerns like this, what protections do they have?
Well, if they're a condo owner, they can look to their condo bylaws because some buildings allow home sharing, others don't. If they own a different type of property, they could build something into their lease agreement saying that they don't want home sharing to be happening on their property.
We know the province is implementing a standardized lease, so where does that fit into this?
Well, the standardized lease is coming out on April 30th, and what that means is that every landlord will have to use the same form document for rent, utilities, things like that. But it will have a separate piece on there where you can add additional items, and that's a place that presumably landlords would be able to put something like, not allowing home sharing if that's something they choose to do. But based on our investigations in this is something that's been happening in Toronto for quite some time. Will any of these bylaws or regulations actually stop some tenants from doing that? It's hard to say.
Yeah,
Dwight?
thank you, Lauren.